Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Unit 3, Day 1, Angle Relationships. In this lesson, you're going to learn how to describe and identify various types of angles that include adjacent, vertical, complementary, and supplementary. Now, those aren't the only 4 types of angles, but those are the ones that we are going to focus for today's lesson. All right. Now, before we get started, I want you to pause this video, and wherever you are, whether you're in the classroom or you're at home, I want you to take a moment and look around and see if you can find 5 different objects that includes angles. All right. So look for 5 different objects that includes some type of angle. All right, then let's continue the video. All right, for my 5 objects, I'm only going to pick things that you can see on the screen. And so I'm going to pick 5 different types. And so the first object I want to point to are the hand signals, right? Particularly the question one, right? That has his hand raised. The pointer finger and the thumb sort of make an angle, all right? So the first is the hand signal poster. Again, you don't have to have these, but I want to just point these out. The second one that I'm going to point out is the number 7 on the number line, okay? So the number 7 on the number line also has an angle. All right. Another one I want to point out is this sign over here. It says, dude, show your work, bro. And y'all know that's certainly a mantra of mine. Showing your work is super important. So the K in particular has an angle, right? The K there. So the sign, dude. All right, and I'm not going to write all of that. All right, and then there's tons of right angles. So this whiteboard has a right angle. The speakers have right angles, all right? And so I'm just going to put the whiteboard. And then lastly, I'll just say the words on the page, right? Particularly the V in vertical, right? That's the angle, right? Or I could say the Y, right? So the letters on the page. Again, those are just a few examples. Those are just 5 that you can see. Behind me, there's angles everywhere in the classroom and all throughout life, all right? So now let's jump into the 4 different types of angles, all right? And we'll take these 2 at a time. The first type is vertical angles. We have vertical angles, okay? So vertical angles are angles that are opposite of each other, when 2 lines intersect, all right? And so you have 2 lines that intersect like this, all right? And vertical angles are angles that are opposite from each other. So, for instance, okay, now here's where you can maybe take a colored pencil and indicate and draw these in different colors. All right, so angle 2, right? If I color that green, and then angle 4, those are adjacent angles. I'm sorry, not adjacent, those are vertical angles. Sorry, excuse me, I'm getting ahead. Vertical angles. So when 2 angles are made when 2 lines are intersecting and they're opposite from each other, all right? Another pair could be 1 and 3, all right? So those are vertical angles. And these angles are congruent, okay? They are congruent, which means that they are equal to each other, okay? So congruent, or I'm going to say equal, all right? Those are vertical angles. When angles are opposite from each other, they are congruent. They are equal. In other words, angle 2 is equal to angle 4, okay? And they are also vertical angles, all right? That's the relationship, all right? Angle 1 is also equal to angle 3, and they are vertical angles, right? So when two angles are opposite from each other, they are called vertical angles, and they are congruent, or they are equal to each other, all right? The next type of angle is adjacent angles, all right? So adjacent, and let's say angles. Adjacent angles, all right? Adjacent angles are angles that share a common vertex and a side, okay? So here, they both have this common vertex, this point, and then they also share this same side right here, okay? And so they are right next to each other. Okay. So adjacent angles are right next to each other, or you can think that they are touching, all right? So in this case, vertical angles are angles 5 and 6 because they share a common vertex, and then they also share this side. They are touching, right? So it must share a common common vertex and a side. So angle 5 and angle 6 are adjacent, all right? Now, let's move on to the last two. The last two are complementary and supplementary angles. Complementary angles and supplementary angles. All right. So complementary angles these are two angles which the sum or the total, right? The sum or the total of their measures equal 90 degrees, okay? So the sum or the total of these angles equal 90 degrees. So when I look at angle 7 plus angle 8, they form a right angle, okay? And so complementary angles form right angles. And I know it's a right angle when it equals 90 degrees. And I'm looking for, again, that box. Again, the box in the corner of the angle lets me know that it's a right angle. Okay, so if it makes that little box, okay, with the little box, that lets me know it is a right angle. All right, and then lastly, supplementary angles. Supplementary angles, they are angles Supplementary angles are angles that add up to, the sum or the total of their angles or measures, they equal 180 degrees. 180 degrees. And so those two together, right, is going to form a straight line. Supplementary angles, they add up to equal 180 and they form a straight line. All right. And so there you go. Those are the different types of angles. All right. Now, so what I want us to do now is I want to apply what we just learned. So what I want you to do is I want you to pause this video and I want you to do numbers 1 through 6 on your own, okay? And I want you to see, again, you have all the definitions. See if you can identify the names of each of the different types of angles. All right, so go ahead and pause it and then check your work once you're done. Hey, did you pause the video? Because if you didn't, you aren't following directions. Make sure you pause the video. And if you did, thank you for following instructions. I appreciate you. All right, here we go. Let's classify angles. All right, so first we have these two angles. We see there's this box in the corner. That box indicates that those two make up a right angle. Okay, so what angles add up to 90 degrees and forms a right angle? That is complementary. Okay, so first we have complementary. Okay, because there's not a ton of space, I'm not going to spell it out completely. All right, then in number two, we have two angles. Okay, those angles don't make a straight line, so it's not supplementary. We have two angles that they're side by side, they share a common vertex and a common side, and so those are adjacent. Okay, next we have angle 1 and angle 2. So I have this angle plus that angle, and hopefully you see that those form a straight line. So those two, because they add up to form a straight line, equal 180. These are supplementary. Okay. Now we have two angles that are opposite of each other. Okay, one's across from the other. They're opposite, and those are what are called vertical angles. And then lastly, number 5 and number 6, they give you this measurement 64 plus 116 equals 180. And when two angles add up to equal 180, they are supplementary. And then 23 plus 67, you add those up, you get 90, which makes a right angle, and those are complementary. I also just realized I forgot to point this note out over here. Complementary and supplementary angles do not have to be adjacent. In other words, that is really what we just saw. These two angles, they're not touching each other, but they're still supplementary and they're still complementary, because supplementary adds up to equals 180 and complementary add up to equal 90. All right. Now, we're almost done in this lesson. I want you to pause one more time, okay? And I want you to answer the following questions, numbers 1 through 3. You're going to be identifying vertical angles, complementary angles, and then you're going to describe the relationship between angles 3 and 4. Now, this is a type of question that you might see on a test, all right? So go ahead and pause it and do numbers 1 through 3. All right. Now, for number 1, there are a couple different answers that you could have put. So I'm going to give you all of them. All right. So for number 1, when you identify vertical angles, again, those are angles that are across from each other. So angle 1 is across from angle 4. So you could have put angle 1 and angle 4. Okay. You also could have put, all right, angle 2. Okay, angle 2, and then across from that is angle 5. Right, so 2 and 5 are also across from each other. Right, and then angle 3 and angle 6. So angle 3 and angle 6 is also, angle 3 is here, angle 6 is over there. Those are opposite. All right, so those are different ones you could have put. For complementary angles, those are ones that add up to equal 190. I'm sorry, those complementary or add up to equal 90 rather. All right, so angle 1 and angle 2. All right, those are complementary. And then angle 4 and angle 5. Okay, those are also complementary. So those are what you could have put for that one. And then lastly, number 3, describe the relationship between angle 3 and angle 4. Angle 3 and angle 4, they are touching. They both have this point and this side. So angle 3 and angle 4 are adjacent angles. All right, guys. In this lesson, we've learned different types of angles. If you don't understand or need me to explain, please feel free. You can comment or you can raise your hand, ask questions. But in this lesson, I hope you now have some understanding of how to identify those 4 types of angles.